Hi everyone, Happy New Year. I hope you guys are all doing well. Today's recipe, I am making a noodle and beef recipe that I created myself. I just had this, hankering for some pasta and beef, and I just said, I'm gonna make up a nice sauce for it, and I tell you, it turned out really great. So I'm using steak in this and some chicken meatballs, and then the key to this is really the sauce. And the sauce is created by making sure that you create a fond, which is a French term, by the way. It means a base or a foundation for your sauce. That's what it is. And it really just brings out some incredible flavor, and I think you're gonna love it. So I'm Rockin Robin, and I'm gonna show you how to do it right after this. All right, everybody, let's go over our ingredients. First up, I have my pasta here. I'm actually making this gluten-free, so if any of you, I know a lot of you are gluten-free out there, you'll be able to make this and really enjoy a great meal. All right, so I've got some pasta from Trader Joe's for that's gluten-free. I've got some flour here that's from Bob's Red Mill. It's the 1-to-1 flour. We'll need some diced onion and mushrooms. Now I go for the super fine dice here so that it kind of mixes into my sauce. I don't want big chunks, that's just me personally. We'll need some fresh garlic. I have some arrowroot. I like to use arrowroot as my thickener as opposed to cornstarch because there are no GMOs in this. We'll need some white wine. And in this container over here, I have some dried basil and thyme. I can't get fresh basil right now, but I would use that if I could get it. And then here's our steaks. Now we bought a whole slab of steak from Costco in New York, and we cut it up, and it was a great deal, by the way. And so here I'm using 2 of those. Here's our chicken meatballs that I mentioned. These are already cooked, so this meal does come together pretty darn quick. We'll need some beef broth. I have some olive oil, salt, and pepper. Now remember, you can get the written recipe down below this video. Click down there where it says show more and you'll see it. So we're gonna start off our recipe by cutting my steak into bite-sized pieces. I like to cut them small, just that way you get a little bit more of it, or at least it seems that way. All right, so we're gonna do that. And then I'm going to place the steak into a Ziploc bag, and I'm gonna add the flour and shake it up. And then we're gonna coat that up. And the reason we're gonna do that is that's gonna help to thicken our sauce eventually. Now we're at the most important part of our recipe, so pay close attention, all right? The first thing you want to do is to make sure you're using a stainless steel pan like I have right here. If you don't have one, a cast iron pan will be a nice substitute. Try not to use a nonstick pan because our goal here is to get our steak to sear and actually stick to the bottom of our pan, and that's how we're going to create our fond. So we want those little brown bits to stick, because then later on we're going to loosen those up and add them, and they will be added to our sauce. I also have a pot of water over here boiling. Actually just turned it off because it's hot and ready to go for my noodles, so that way the timing on it will be ready when this is ready. All right, so I got my pan hot here, and I'm gonna add some oil to it. Not too much, guys, because it'll just spit all over. So we're just gonna add a little bit, and then just kind of spread it around. Now you don't want to crowd your pan, otherwise you end up steaming and not really searing your steak. So if you have too much to put in the pan, then go ahead and do it in batches. No problem with that. So after a couple minutes, go ahead and check a piece or two and see, look at that, it's doing well, it's starting to brown up. So I'm going to flip them over. And sometimes I like to add just a little more oil to the pan. It looks just a little dry over here. And remember, anything sticks, we like that. We like sticking. Sticking is good. Now, because these pieces are so small, this is basically done. And now I'm going to place it to a dish that I have right over here and just set it aside and keep it warm. All right, I've got a little more of the beef to cook, so I'm going to add a little bit more oil to the pan. Give that a chance to heat up before I add the meat. Now, when you add some more meat to your pan, the temperature may drop, so you want to turn it up just a smidge. Get the temperature back up so you can sear the second batch. All right, so my second batch of the beef is pretty much done. So I'm going to add that again to my bowl over here. And I hope you can see all the brown stuff left behind, baby. This is the good stuff. Next up is our sausage. Now that's already cooked. Like I mentioned, I have a temperature on medium-low here. All we're doing here is kind of heating it up. I'm adding just a little bit of oil, and I cut these into quarters so that they'd be sort of similar to the same size as the beef. So I'm just going to throw these in here and give them a nice little heating up, and we'll add them to the beef bowl when I'm done with that. All right, so the sausage looks like it's pretty heated up here. It's been going for about 2 minutes, so I'm going to place that in the bowl with the beef. All right, now we're going to work on our onions. I'm going to add a little more olive oil to the pan and toss in our onions. So remember I said how your pan will cool down when you add something to it. You might want to turn it up just a smidgen. I'm going to add the mushrooms with them, and we're going to cook these, and we'll see what they look like in 10 minutes. So we've got about 3 or 4 minutes left or so to cook our onion mixture. And I'm getting ready to cook up my noodles. So I'm going to put the flame back on to high, get this to boil, and then I'm going to cook my noodles so I can time it all, just right. All right, so now I'm ready to add the garlic. I'm going to add the fresh garlic to this mixture. I like to go, I went close to 15 minutes on this. The longer, the better. So I'm just going to press my garlic right into this. And once I get all this in there, we'll cook it and stir it up for about 1 minute. So in the meantime, go ahead and start your noodles and get them going. Next up, we're going to add the wine to this dish. And now I did turn the flame down, so I'm going to turn it back up just to medium-low. And I'm going to use that liquid to deglaze the pan. So make sure you scrape really well. Get every last bit up and get into our sauce. So next up is our beef broth. So I'm going to pour this right in. I'm going to add my spices. Now we haven't added any salt yet, so I'm going to add a pinch of salt to this. And the pepper. Now I want to bring this up to a simmer here on our sauce and let this cook for just, a few minutes. I want to cook out the wine, the alcohol in the wine rather, and we'll give that a taste and see if we need to adjust, and add a little more salt. So now I got my sauce up to a simmer, and we let that simmer for just a couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes here. And in the meantime, I'm going to take a little bit of beef broth and pour it into the arrowroot and make a little slurry to thicken this up a little bit. All right, so now I'm going to add my little slurry here to my sauce to thicken it just a bit. It's time to add the meat back to the sauce so that it can get nice and hot before we serve it. So I'm going to turn this up a little bit and get things nice and hot. All right, now it's time to add the noodles. I like to just throw them in here. You don't have to. You can keep them separate if you want, but I figure why not? All right, we're done here with this dish. It makes a nice amount, doesn't it? All right, let's serve this up. It smells incredible. You guys are gonna love this. It is so darn tasty. And the fact that it's gluten-free, people that just have to eat gluten-free and want to try this recipe, you are going to love it. This is a treat. Just remember to use a stainless steel pan to create that fond. Cook those onions, I said a minimum of 10 minutes. If you can go 15, that's even better. I really like the steak in this. And the steak, you might ask, well, can I use, stew meat? Well, not really, because stew meat takes about 1.5 hours to cook and to become tender, whereas this steak is ready as soon as it's seared, basically. The flavors are absolutely delicious, guys. Super recipe. I hope you'll try this. You really got to try this, right? Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you'd like to see more recipes like this, click the subscribe button, and that way you'll be notified when new videos come out every week. So Thanks again. Leave me a comment if you have any, recipe requests or anything, any questions. Leave them down below in the comment section. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.